Tonight, former President Trump plans to close out the RNC, where he will give his vision to make America great again, the theme on the final day of the convention. Our Washington insider, Armstrong Williams, has been at the convention since day one and joins us now from Milwaukee. And, you know, Armstrong, you've been to every Republican and Democratic convention since 1984, right? When was it Reagan Bush? When they won in a landslide against Mondale and Ferraro. So what's different about this one? What are some of your biggest takeaways?
Well, things did not move so quickly in the past in terms of the media. We do not have the advent of social media where things can happen in a split second, a story can break. During the days of Reagan, faith and God and country and flag, if you didn't talk about it, you could not win office. And then over the last several decades, that seemed to change. And all of a sudden, with the attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump's life, we're not talking about God. They're talking about Jesus. They're talking about faith. They're talking about family. They're talking about morals. And it's just sort of as if all of a sudden we've had an epiphany to get back to what is the true value and the foundation of America.
It's so interesting because that traumatic event brought a lot of hope and faith to the Republican Party. Do you see a return to faith and values in this country in which it was founded?
You know, I think when you talk to the people, the delegates, they've never lost that. It is their foundation. It is their bedrock. It's what gives them hope in tragedy. When you listen to the many victims who spoke about whether they lost their sister, whether they lost their son, the thing that held it together for them was faith, was God, was prayer, communities pulling for them. So I think the leadership has lost touch because there seems to be a sense that that is not what parties or candidates want to embrace, but it's still the bedrock of who we are as Americans.
Meantime, President Biden, we're hearing, is facing these renewed calls to resign. And Armstrong, there's reports that behind the scenes, he's not as defiant about not resigning as he is publicly about stepping aside. What are you hearing?
You know, what is fascinating is what no one is talking about is how the Trump campaign has decided not to put the Biden ads on television and on radio and in print. It's not as if there's a part of them that want to run against Joe Biden. They want him in the race, but they have a lot of sympathy for him also because the party is in disarray. And since the assassination on former President Donald Trump's life, so much has changed in terms of the spirit and the tactics. But Jan, I've said this to you and I say it to you again. Joe Biden is just, it's not when a matter will, it's just when it will happen. Pelosi, Schumer, some of his closest donors have met with him privately. Joe Biden is stepping down. I think the real issue is whether Joe Biden decides whether Kamala Harris is his heir or whether he believes she should earn it the honest way, whether there should be an open convention and let the delegates decide whether or not they want her as the nominee. But here's the problem. They cannot afford not to have Kamala Harris. It would totally disrupt the party. It's the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. It's their money that's in back. The money automatically goes to her, and so they have no path forward, even though many Democrats don't believe that Kamala Harris has much of a chance of defeating a Trump-Vance ticket.
What did you make of the Trump-Vance ticket? What did you make of his pick of J.D. Vance? How's he being received?
You know, listen, just think about J.D. Vance's mother and the fact that she fought abuse. And she's recovered for the last 10 years. When you look at her, the image of her, as they would say in the United Kingdom, she's a commoner. She looks like everyday Americans. They were dirt poor. I mean, this guy struggled. If you read his book and watched his movie, I mean, he comes from humble beginnings. And most Americans, when you contrast him with the billionaire Donald Trump and somebody who comes from this kind of background, it's very relatable to many Americans on the country. It really warms their hearts. So no matter what you think about the narrative of J.D. Vance and how you get to know him and whether he's gone far right with MAGA, one thing that people can realize is that his story is very real, it's very American, and it goes let people know you can come from any walk of life in America and you could possibly ascend to become nominated and named as someone's vice president, and you could see the humility in his mother's face, the fact that given my background, my son was still able to rise, go to Yale, and Donald Trump selected him as his VP. What a story.
A lot of Americans can resonate with that, and he is the American dream. All right, Washington Insider, Armstrong Williams, thanks for joining us this morning on the last day of the RNC. We appreciate it. Have a good one.